The following contains violence, coarse language, and adult situations not suitable for minors. Viewer discretion is advised.
Brutal!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday podcast. We are here with Caesar,
Yo.
and we will be returning to the show the thing that has brought about 1,000 viewers to our channel at one time. The Sith Resurgence by Lily Orchard. We're on chapter 12. There
Out
are
of-
47. We are not even halfway through this, Vic.
All right. Is it 47 in total or 47 in counting?
One moment. 48 in total.
I mean, is it
We
still
are-
ongoing though?
No.
Okay,
no.
so
chapter 48 is called the epilogue. Is an epilogue. So
okay, so there is an end.
there is an end, just not anywhere near in sight. The end is not in sight, people. There's so much worse. It's going to get so much worse. But we must begin. Oh, before we do, I'll talk about it when we reach that chapter. But
So, Clayton, do you remember anything that happened in the last chapter? Because I
So
completely forgot.
I know this chapter is called Picking Up All Kinds of Cuties, which I hope is not referring to Luke Skywalker. But previously, we basically recapped the movie with the addition of Mary Sue, and now we're trying to fill the gap between the rise of not the rise of Skywalker, the Force Awakens and the Last Jedi. And we're trying to bridge that gap because no one did that because no one cared to do that in the actual show, in the actual movies. But Lily is going to try. That being said, I believe last time was Rey annoyingly holding like the fact that Aliana lied to her over her head for
Yeah.
no reason other than she feels like she has to.
Yeah, I think they made up in the last chapter.
I think they did too. I think they were on the mend. Or at least that's what Lily I keep wanting to call her Liliana, and that makes me sad because Liliana is an actual good character from Dragon Age. But anyway, Aliana shivered as they stepped out of the Fury onto the surface of Octo. She hadn't expected the planet to be this chilly. She fastened her cloak together as she followed Rey up the row of steps leading up the island. Okay. And we've already begun with the weird wordings of things. Scanners had picked up a single human on this particular island, and so all that remained was to actually find the elusive Jedi who was hiding here. Or at least they explained how they found Luke. Because the map shows them to the planet in The Force Awakens, but doesn't actually seem to give a precise location. It's just like, "Hi, I'm Rey. I'm here." Or, "How can I help you?" Aliana was walking several paces behind Rey, wanting to keep as much between herself and keep as much between herself and Skywalker as she could possibly manage. Rey was starting to wish she told Aliana to stay on the ship. They were so close to Skywalker now that she could feel it. Perhaps literally, now that they were on the cusp of finding him. She worried that Aliana's presence could possibly jeopardize the entire mission. Or the sight of a Jedi could induce a trauma-induced panic into Aliana. Rey began to hate herself for not coming to that conclusion first. Regardless, the mission was delicate enough already. Hell, for all they knew, Skywalker already sensed the presence of a dark side user. Or when they landed, whoa! I hit a button on my keyboard. No, we're still too far.
Yeah, we're back near the top.
There we go. As they reached the peak of the mountain, hold on. Hell, for all they knew, Skywalker already sensed she was so new to this Force business she couldn't be sure. As they reached the peak of the mountain, they both stopped. They noticed a hooded figure standing at the edge of the cliff and overlooking the massive ocean of Octo. They glanced at each other, then slowly approached, not wanting to surprise the old man. Eliana let out a loud whistle to get his attention. The figure tilted his head slightly before turning around properly. Two hands, one flesh and blood and one mechanical, reached up to pull back the hood. Revealed from underneath was an old man with long gray hair and a full beard. He wore pure white robes underneath a brown cloak. He appeared to be the pinnacle image of a Jedi Master. That is, except his eyes. They were a dull blue with dark rings around them, showing clear age, but there was more to it than that. Something in the man's eyes made him appear off, not like the Jedi that he should be. Rey, Eliana said, leaning in to whisper in Rey's ear, I can't feel the Force coming from him at all. She looked at Rey, only to find she was completely still, like a bantha caught in the headlights. She nudged her, but Rey only made a non-committal noise in response. Hi, Kookaburra.
Right. Okay, so the bantha is the giant yak monster.
Yes.
How do you get? And you're gonna compare that to a deer in the headlights.
I mean, the bantha is like the bantha is kind of the cow and chicken of Star Wars.
How is it like a chicken?
Like they a lot of slang refers like banthas that are easily scared or kind of thing. Is it possible not to sense the Force from someone? Yes. As Hunter, it is. The way that you could, in theory, have it done is there were Jedis that were skilled in just dampening their Force signature. So you could just have it be strong enough in the Force that you can literally erase your Force signature from other Force users. Or in Darth Bane Rule of 2, Xana actually uses Sith magic to project a light side aura to everyone around her, thus concealing her dark side, the fact that she was a dark sider. Eliana stepped back from her and stepped forward. Are you Luke Skywalker? Eliana asked, approaching the old Jedi. Yes, Luke confirmed after a long pause. His gaze shifted slightly from the one girl standing before him, nervous but poised with determination, to the other. The expression on her face he could only describe as bitterness. This is Rey, Eliana said. She's here to learn the ways of the Force from you. Luke's attention turned back to Rey. He closed his eyes and sighed, as if what Eliana just said was the last thing he wanted to hear. Evidently, that very well may have been the case, as then he walked down the peak from where the two women came without a word. What? Rey stammered, befuddled. followed by the abrupt exit of the old Jedi. Then she looked at Aliana questioningly. I don't know, follow him. Well, at least Lily did one thing correct. At least Luke didn't throw his lightsaber over his shoulder.
Well, to be fair, Ray didn't even give it to him yet.
True. But at least we didn't begin with that. I'm sure there will be worse, though. Because I don't think Luke Skywalker will be viewed positively, let's just say.
Yeah, looks like Lily's already going with the Jake Skywalker approach.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, Lily, you're rewriting the sequel trilogy, but you had to keep in Jake Skywalker.
I mean, no, well, here's the thing. He's a man. And if a male... because Luke Skywalker is a man and obviously very, very powerful in the Force because of, his own training and his own connection with it, clearly he can't be powerful anymore because we have to have our Mary Sues be powerful. Because men have always had the power and now women have the power and men don't like it. That's my story as a feminist and I'm sticking to it. Dramatic tea sip. I wonder if there's a clip for sipping of someone dramatically sipping tea.
I don't know.
I will have to
You
find
think
one.
you think that one shot of Kermit the Frog drinking tea is part of the video?
We could probably do that. Uh, Ray nodded and they turned to follow him down the mountain. And through another pass they hadn't noticed coming up, it crossed over a chasm and into what looked like a tiny village of single-person huts. It was a secluded place that Ray could almost describe as cozy, were it not for the cold winds blowing through the entire cliffside. She shuddered from the chill against her exposed arms, covering them with her hands. Are you cold? Aliana said, looking at her new gear. That outfit doesn't have full sleeves. In truth, Ray was positively freezing. The desert climate she lived in for most of her life did not prepare her for climates like this. It took a great deal of self-control to keep her teeth from chattering. I'll be fine, she said. Oh, thank goodness. Well, I can only compliment her that we remembered Ray was from a desert planet. Like the thing that even the prequels managed to do. Like, Anakin is from a desert planet. Anakin is from a desert planet. At the first time he goes into space, he's cold. Well, because he's not used to a new climate. Ha!
I mean, deserts are cold at night, though.
True.
Indeed, true.
But I'm willing to bet that the houses that they live in are probably designed to absorb the heat of the day and then stay cool. Like stay cool during the day. And keep warm at night. Like the rock they're made out of absorbs the heat of the sun during the day. So as the night passes, it cools down. That kind of effect. Oh, I just cracked my neck and it felt so good. All right, Aliana nodded as she approached the hut that Luke disappeared inside. I have more cloaks on the ship if you want to grab one later. She knocked on the door and leaned toward the opening. Master Skywalker, I know you're in there. This girl needs a teacher, and you're the only Jedi left. Nothing. Aliana banged on the hut door harder. Master Skywalker, we can't leave this planet until we have your help. It was then that the door opened. Luke stepped out of the hut, having changed his brown and white robes into heavier black clothes, complete with a poncho. Right, thank you. Now, the situation is, Aliana began to say before Luke walked right past her, without a word, further down the grassy hill. Oh, okay, I guess we're doing this now. Aliana sneered under her breath before
Oh
turning to
God.
follow Luke.
And bring on the alien titty milk. Bring on the alien titty milk.
No, 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 you did not keep this scene. Why? Number one, why are we writing Luke like this? Just as a question. Like, how can one watch the original trilogy and be like, this was a strong and and compelling move for Luke's character?
Yeah, it really seems like Lily Orchard. Lily Orchard hates the sequel trilogy, but for the wrong reasons.
She hates the sequel trilogy because it's not diverse enough. There's no lesbianism.
Except for Rise of Skywalker.
No, there's no lesbianism in that movie.
Well, he's not
Wait,
in China.
yeah, that's where my VPN is set. There's no lesbian kiss in that movie. I kept seeing like news articles and stuff saying like there's a lesbian kiss. I watched that movie like 3 times. Fast forwarded through. Nope. There's no lesbian kiss in that movie. Our great overlord Xi Jinping does not allow lesbianism.
Why is your VPN set to China?
It's not.
Okay, I was about to say, dude. I was about to think a lot less of you.
The bit was that I'd never seen the American copy.
Ah.
She jogged ahead and grabbed his shoulder. Don't walk away from me, Jedi. Luke turned around and stared at her hand and then at her, raising an eyebrow. That's better. Now, as I was saying, Rey needs a teacher, and you're the only Jedi left in the galaxy. So you need to teach Rey, or at the very least tell us why you're ignoring us. Luke rolled his eyes before continuing down the trail. I'm ignoring you because I'm not interested. He said finally, his voice rough and gravelly. Go away.
Go away.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Spot on. Very poignant, poor child.
Moving forward.
I feel like that sums up the whole scene. Aliana stepped in his way this time. It's not a matter of interest, she said through gritted teeth. It's a matter of life and death. The First Order is on the rise and won't be stopped until we give it proper opposition. You don't need the Jedi. The Jedi are better off dead, and you two are better off not messing around with the Force. Without the Jedi, the galaxy is better off.
While an imperial fascist regime is taking over the galaxy and genocided 5 planets.
See, that's the logic in the movie too. It's like, okay, but there's this whole faction of people that are kidnapping children, indoctrinating them, and blowing up planets and raiding civilizations. Like we saw them kill a bunch of innocent civilians, like a whole in the opening scene of the last movie. And then they go off and like destroy private property because they think someone is they think there's enemies are hiding there. But no, we don't need the guardians of peace and to come and defend us. No, that would be wrong. It would be wrong and uninclusive of us. to defend ourselves. Aeliana and Rey looked at each other, confused. Finally, it was Rey who spoke up. Master Skywalker, the First Order tried to destroy the Republic. They almost slaughtered billions of people. Oh, yeah. That is a thing that actually did happen in the first movie. And they're only getting more aggressive. We need your help. We need the Jedi Order back. We need Luke Skywalker. Luke turned a somber look at Rey. His eyes seemed to pierce through her in a way that made her feel vaguely uncomfortable. Then a heavy sigh, and Luke said, "You don't need Luke Skywalker." Rey's brow furrowed as she looked at the aging Jedi Master. "Did you hear a word I just said?" Luke seemed to delight in their confusion as a small smirk crossed his face. The fuck? I'm sorry, Kookaburra. I did not intend to scare you. Luke seemed to delight in their confusion as a small smirk crossed his face. Why is he smirking? What did you think was going to happen here? Did you think I came to the most unfindable place in the galaxy for no reason at all? You know what Mahler said it best? Don't use a unfindable. I'm not even sure this is a word. He turned away from both of them and continued back down the mountain. Go away.
Go
Okay.
away.
Okay. Remote, secluded, a thesaurus of words and synonyms for hard to find.
Okay, so but if he was going to go, I mean, this is just a problem with the movie itself. If he's trying to go to the most unfindable place in the galaxy, why would he go somewhere that has a Jedi temple? That would narrow down all the possible locations.
Concealed, shrouded, isolated, secret, remote, cloistered, out of the way, sequestered, inaccessible, far away, unreachable, lonesome, cut off. All of these synonyms for hard to find. Well, you can leave Kookaburra, but me and Caesar are forced to stay if that is the case. Rey moved to follow after him, but Aeliana stopped her. Hold on, I have one more trick up my sleeve. She said, turning to face Luke as he walked away and loudly yelling, "If a Jedi won't train her, I guess the Sith will have to do." Luke stopped dead in his tracks, turning back to look at the two women. "What are you talking about?" Aeliana said nothing. She only smiled and drew her lightsaber from her belt, revealing the blade to be crimson red. She relished in how Luke's eyes went wide with shock. I hate this.
This is a really weird form of bribery.
Yeah, this is like such a stupid scene. Oh god.
So either you train her or I train her. I mean,
Which was an utterly pointless distinction because Rey already is like, I want to learn from you, Aeliana. We already had that. You may call me Darth Amorosa, she said with a faux malevolent tone in her voice. And I present you with an ultimatum, Master or Skywalker. Either take this girl as your apprentice, or I will.
Okay, if Luke take okay, because you've already revealed yourself as a Sith, Luke's going to be suspecting Rey's motives if he trains her.
Yeah, but
Like you're with a Sith. Why do you want to train under me?
yeah, and furthermore, like what the whole oh, Luke is intimidated by a strong woman and a Sith. No, he faced the greatest of the Sith. Not once, but twice in Legends material, you know, when Star Wars was good. Like Luke Skywalker faced the greatest of the Sith. With like Darth Vader and Palpatine were the strongest of the Rule of Two Sith. And yet, Luke is intimidated by this girl who appeared on his island. Luke's expression went from one of abject horror to almost disbelief. That's impossible, he said, stepping back up the hill to the two women. The Sith are extinct. Your predecessors thought that too, but then the Clone Wars happened, she said as she glared the Jedi down, relishing in one of the few times she got to pull the big bad dark lady routine. Oh God. I
I
just
mean,
thought
the Sith revealed themselves before the Clone Wars.
yeah, they did. I'd have thought you would have learned by now. Luke narrowed his eyes at Aliana. If that were true, why would you give this girl to me as an apprentice rather than just take her as your own? What's your game, Sith? He asked as he approached her. Aliana narrowed her eyes at Luke as he approached. Trust me, if Rey were here asked me to train her, I absolutely would. But she did. Like, she did, but she changed her mind. She was like, I want to see Luke. Well, at the very least, we need to talk to Luke. You, however, were her first choice. So you can either come back to the Resistance with us, train her in the Force, or just stay here and let me do it. Either way, she will learn the Force. If you and the Jedi won't help the Resistance stop the First Order, then the Sith will do just as well. Master Skywalker, please, Rey said, desperation in her voice. The galaxy needs your help, one way or another. Luke gave Aliana a puzzled look. Whoa, I hit space. Damn it. My ADD is fucking with me today. Hold on. Grabbing my fidget cube. Okay. And you didn't. It seems I don't have much of a choice, do I? Fine. Come back here at dawn. I'll teach you the ways of the Force. Maybe then you'll learn why the galaxy is better off without the Jedi.
Okay, then she's just gonna go over and train with a Sith.
Yeah, like
Yeah, okay, hey Lily, you're combining two different plots together. You're like trying to
yeah,
you're
and
fitting a square peg into a round hole.
yeah. So like the whole ultimatum is if you don't train her, I will. And Luke has just basically admitted, like, yeah, like I'm gonna basically tell you why the galaxy's better off without me, and when you figure that out, you'll leave. So why did he accept the ultimatum at all? Why did he accept her as a student? Why isn't he just like, fine, go train her? Like this choice doesn't make sense with the character that Luke Skywalker the character of Luke Skywalker you have presented so far. Like, so far, he has been just much like Jake Skywalker, aloof, non-committal, and basically broken a shell of the hero he should be. And I will say that there is reason that in other forms of media, this character arc for the hero has been done before, and it's been done fairly well. Well, the problem is Ryan Johnson is an incompetent. I know that's like the coldest take ever. Excuse me. Sorry. All right. But yeah, this doesn't make sense with the choice with how you've presented him so far. Aliana smiled at Ray, and you didn't want to bring the Sith. Ray couldn't help but the smile spreading on her face. Okay, you were right to come, Miss Smug, she said fondly. Now let's get back on the ship. I'm actually freezing my ass off out here. Luke watched the two of them curiously. They certainly didn't behave the way he would have expected that a fledgling Jedi and a Sith Lord would. He simply shook his head and resumed down the path to perform whatever daily routine he set out to do. Okay, are we in Luke's head? If we're in Luke's head, then we should have of this daily routine at least minorly mentioned, like going to resume down the path to go to collect milk or grab some bird eggs, some poro eggs. Aliana and Ray returned down the other way back toward the Fury. As much as meeting Luke had been a surprise, it was nice to have actually made some progress in such a short time. Still, she wondered why Luke seemed to be so disinterested with the Jedi and bringing them back. As they walked to the Fury, she quietly wondered whether what Aliana said when they were traveling to Takanda was right. That Luke had become to an elusive planet that couldn't be found by anyone to hide from the galaxy. She glanced back up at the village they'd left behind and frowned. Something was wrong. Very wrong. All right. Ray was fiddling with her training saber by the ocean side. Aliana had told her that the crystal chamber could be opened to change the color, and she sat there with a gold crystal in her lap as she tried in vain to actually open the lightsaber. It proved to be a struggle as there were no latches or grooves to fit her nail into in order to pry it open. She sighed as she set the hilt down onto the dirt and looked up towards the Fury. And that's when her heart stopped cold in her chest. Directly in front of her, clear as day, was Kylo Ren. He was looking down at something, seemingly not noticing her at first. When she tried to taking a step back, she knocked over a nearby rock, the noise causing him to look up. She could see where she injured him in their previous encounter. The skin split by Aliana's lightsaber, had not been stitched together, but rather seemed to be bridgeted by a sheet of metal that went under the skin. What? Why? Like, the reason Adam Driver had those things on his face when he's in this scene is because he got cut on the face. So so it was probably stitched together and like burn salve and stuff. Like, what?
I'm having a hard time trying to imagine this. Like, I get it. It's supposed to be that scene where he has like the black strip on his face,
Yeah.
but why would it be underneath his skin?
Like, it looks like it's not. It's supposed to be, instead of like the black strips, which I'm guessing she thought were stitches, it looks like he had sheets of metal shoved underneath his skin to close up those wounds. What? So Maybe it's supposed to be like the cybernetics from Cyberpunk 2077, like where you see like there's lines on people's faces. That's supposed to be like indications of augmentations. Maybe it's something like that.
Okay, I'm
But
looking at. Alright, I'm looking at his black strip thing, and it doesn't.
they're very clearly
Right.
not under any sort of skin.
Yeah, it almost looks like a tattoo.
Like a tattoo or a band-aid, something like that. Like you can clearly, it's just like medical adhesive tape or something.
Yeah, I guess in some shots I can see why Lily would confuse it with being under the skin.
Hmm. Another addition to his generally unpleasant visage. As he saw Ray, he looked up, just as surprised to see her. Seeing the slimy bastard even look at her was enough to make her skin crawl. He took a single step forward, and Ray immediately reached for the pistol holstered at her belt, firing at him thrice over. By the time the blaster bolts would have reached him, he was gone. There was no sign of him anywhere. What you did see was Aliana holding her lightsaber in a manner that suggested she had just deflected those bolts. Ray, what the hell? I'm sorry, what are you shooting at me for? Aliana demanded, looking quite upset and breathing heavily.
I just
I
remember that Sith are evil.
I don't know what came over me, Ray lied, trying not to think too hard about what had just happened. I just thought I saw something and panicked. Aliana seemed to settle down a little bit as she deactivated her lightsaber, but she looked at Ray suspiciously. What did you see? Ray turned her gaze away from Aliana. She wasn't willing to accept the idea that she was hallucinating about Kylo Ren. She did not want to think about being about that being a possibility and what that would say about her. Was her mind so badly damaged by what he attempted to do to her in that interrogation cell? Was her seeing visions of him some kind of sign of weakness? She wasn't sure. She didn't want to accept that any possibility as truth. She knew if she looked into Aliana's unyielding gaze, she would get the truth out of her. She wasn't ready to deal with that. I I don't know what I saw. All I know is it wasn't good. Okay, so the thing with the interrogation scene in this fanfic though is that it's much like the one in the movie where it's kind of clear that Ray isn't under any pain. Like Ray is slightly in pain, but not to any severe degree. It's not like he held her for months. While he tortured her every day. She was in there maybe a total of 5 minutes. Like I question why she's suddenly so traumatized by even encountering Kylo Ren.
I mean, considering how much of a pushover he is in this series.
Oh yeah, big time. Like how she literally like outpowered him with the Force in that scene. So it's like, why are you trying to hide this? You've learned that what the Force is capable of to some extent. The very least asking is going to lead you to more answers. I mean, Kookaburra, that doesn't make it better. In fact, I'd say it makes it worse. Because if you're going to write something like that into a fan fiction, and I'm sorry I can't display what you said in the chat, because of YouTube's ever present and ever observant eyes. writing that into a piece of literature, you have to do two things. One, you have to treat it with the respect it deserves, which, let's be real, it's not here. Two, you have to write it damn good, which means that you have to project and explain. You have to be able to project through your characters there's the terrible emotions that come along with that. But also, yeah, well, look, J.J. Abrams is 100% into some weird shit. Like I've if you look at a picture of J.J. Abrams and you can tell me like that dude has regular vanilla missionary sex, I will call you a liar because there ain't no way that man isn't into something like really screwed up.
I never really saw that scene as even being some kind of allegory. He just read her mind with the Force.
Yeah, that's what I read it as too. But apparently JJ has actually described it as that.
Uh, it's not though. He read her mind. That's about it.
Like if you wanted to do something like that, you could. Um but it would require you to, so the way you would write something like that is very much the same way that in Richard Kadri writes a scene with Sandman Slim in his books. So he is hired by someone. He goes to their compound, and in order to enter, he encounters a telepath. The telepath is there to, find any people that are lying against what the goals of the facility is, that sort of thing. So what he does is instead of just projecting walls around the telepath so he can't get in or like reciting the alphabet or doing something like that, he opens the floodgates and grabs this telepath, like psychically grabs this telepath and takes him on a whirlwind of fuckery. And the way it is described is very delicate, but also explains everything that went on because the dude. So the plot of this series is this dude, the main character, was sent to hell alive. So before they discover so as you can imagine, a living human in hell was quite the interesting little toy. And Kadri leaves you to fill in the blanks of what potentially, like, there was like months, like his first few months was just filled with what does this button do kind of chicanery. So you can imagine, like, oh, it was probably pretty bad. And then the telepath comes, and then he lets him go. And the telepath is like, why the fuck would you do that? As he breaks down and cries. He's the and Slim basically says, because you poked, like, fucker, don't. Like, you tried to read too deep. I let you in. You tried to push, and you got bit for it. We're not even 3/4 of the way through Tyrant, so uh, we got a lot to get through. But I was ranting about, I was comparing things and contrasting things. Yeah, exactly. Like If you're going to do something like that, it has to influence the character in some way. But remember, Mary Sue's. So the universe parts around them. They can be traumatized, but the trauma won't actually be effect in any actual meaningful sense. There won't be any actual meaning behind it. Like how Aliana is scared of the Jedi, but scared of and hates the Jedi, but doesn't actually hate the Jedi when we need to move the plot forward.
Yeah, she sure as fuck wasn't scared of Luke right there.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, you roboted there for a second. I'm not sure if it was me or
Beep
you.
boop. I was just saying that she sure as fuck wasn't scared of Luke when she was talking to him earlier.
Okay, yeah, you're cutting in and out. For me, I don't know if it's for everybody else, but for me, you're cutting in and out.
Beep boop.
All right. Aliana's suspicious look became one of concern as she stepped closer, holding a black cloak out for her. I'm here if you want to talk about it now. About it, you know. She accepted the cloak, the fabric actually offering her some comfort. Ray looked back up at Aliana, surprised to see Aliana offering the chance to talk to her about this, but not forcing it on her. Thank you, but I think I can handle this, and I won't shoot at you anymore if that's what you're worried about. She smiled at Aliana in an attempt to lighten the mood. Aliana smiled and nodded. All right, if you're sure. Night's falling soon. I'll get dinner ready and you can come in whenever you want. Ray smiled, looking forward to dinner as she always did on the Fury, and turned back to the ocean. Slipping the cloak over her shoulders as she fastened it, she noticed the faint smell of rose water and cinnamon and hit her nose. She was confused before she realized that Aliana hadn't given her a spare cloak lying in the cargo hold. This was Aliana's cloak. It had her scent on it, a scent that Ray hadn't truly noticed before. It was pleasant and comforting. She honestly could not get over how pleasant the cloak smelled. She found herself being disappointed that the scent was as faint as it was. Perhaps if she held it closer to her face, could bask in the pleasant aroma more. It helped a little, but not much. If only she were this close to Aliana instead of just her cloak. One moment.
Yeah.
Spot on. Very poignant, poor child.
Moving forward.
She shook her head of these thoughts, ripping the cloak off herself. No, she couldn't keep doing this. This attraction could not get in the way of her training, nor would it distract her from the very real problems they still had. She wouldn't allow it. Balling up the cloak as best she could in one hand, she moved to throw it into the ocean. What the fuck? Hold on. Hold on. What? Like the weird like fetishy like description of the cloak. Yeah. Yeah, there's that's one thing. But Ray is now just like, "Oh, I can't have get away from me gay thoughts." Straight up get away from me gay thoughts. And then she instead of taking off the cloak, that's not hers, going inside and, giving it to a and going inside, she's going to throw it into the ocean.
Yeah, this says a lot about Lily Orchard's taste in women.
But
If
she
we're,
stopped. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, if we're going to assume that Aelion is meant to be like Lily Orchard's insert, then it's very telling about her taste in women. If she's going to portray Ray like this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She stopped. No, this was Allie's cloak. She gave it to her to keep her warm, not to try and distract her from her training. She wouldn't even be training with Luke if not for her intervention. there were moments where Rey could almost convince herself this was all some manipulative scheme of Aliana's to make Rey feel sorry for the tragedies in her life, to play on their undeniable attraction to one another, and tempt her away from the Jedi path. The fuck? What the fuck? What? But none of those thoughts matched up with what Aliana had actually done. She gave Rey the choice of which path to walk. Then Rey chose the path of the Jedi. Aliana went out of her way to make this possible. This wasn't part of some malevolent scheme. Aliana wasn't deceiving her. She actually cared about her. It's so lovely reading a fan fiction that isn't written well, because you get to watch the characters go through this what I like to call chapter amnesia. So when a fan fiction isn't written very well, each chapter you'll find that characters come to realizations that they realized last chapter. It's sort of like being born. It's sort of like once the new chapter begins, everyone has amnesia about the minor things that happened in the last chapter, but the plot details stay the same. We already had Rey come to the realization that Aliana wasn't deceiving her, wasn't fucking with her. We had that, back a chapter ago when she realized she could literally just probe into Aliana's sex life and all like a bunch of other shit. Like
Oh God, I forgot about that.
yeah, like
She like screwed.
Aliana basically gave her access to all of her private information, and Rey, he was told once, like, hey, Aliana would rather talk to you about this in person, but you can still do it. And then she was like, oh, I guess she's really not like fucking with me. And knowing that made it even harder for Rey to ignore these feelings she was having. Aliana wasn't just selfless and kind, she was positively beautiful. Even just holding her cloak and feeling the soft fabric under her fingers was comforting. Rey put the cloak back over herself, wrapping herself tightly within. The tighter she held it to herself, the more that pleasant aroma overtook her, and the more it felt like she was being hugged. She sat down on the rock and buried her face in the collar, letting herself drift into a daydream about what it would be like to snuggle up to Aliana and hold her. For a moment, things were almost perfect. Hold on, I need to do it again.
Yeah.
Spot on. Very poignant, poor child.
Moving forward.
Like, what the fuck is this? Just,
I was gonna say she's sniffing it.
yeah, she's smelling it. God. Okay. Oh, thank God we're not. Yeah, like, okay, why is nothing shadow? Why does nothing have shadow? Why is everything flat? First off, why is everything flat? Second, um, why does Rey's hand look like that? Uh, n-
I guess because it's
and
underneath the cloth.
no, look at that. Just look at the shape of the hand.
I mean, she's gripping it. Yeah, it is very amateurishly drawn.
All right, Amorosa. So Luke asked as she approached Aliana, who was piling up firewood around the base of the Fury. Why? She had taken to gathering wood for more outdoor gatherings, as she thought about plans to have meals around a fire to ease the tension that was rapidly building up in the ship. However, she fumbled and dropped her vibroblade When Luke approached her. Oh, look, she's clumsy. What what do you want? Rey asked, feeling very nervous as she found herself alone with Luke Skywalker. I wanted to talk to you. You're curious. Aliana's expression tilted slightly into confusion, but still very much on edge. About you? No, not really. Luke resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Okay, can we pick a perspective and stick to it, please? Like, are we in Luke's head or Aliana's? I admit that you are unusual, he clarified. Aliana stared at him a moment, then jerked her head to beckon him towards the separate pile she'd made it a short way off from the Fury's ramp. She held a hand out to it and ignited it with a bolt of force lightning, sitting down on a rock. All right, what did you want to talk about? For what fucking God damn it. For what fucking purpose? Why? Why? Just cuz? Cuz Force Lightning? Force Lightning's awesome, so she would use it whenever she could. He remained standing as Aliana sat down. Who are you? He asked plainly. Because I've met more than a few Sith Lords in my time, even more and were twisted even more that were twisted by the dark side. You, Amorosa, are something else entirely. What's your story? What in the galaxy makes a Sith like you?
Oh,
Yes.
God.
Yes, Tyrant King. Okay. So we have literal Force Jesus being like, "Oh, you're not like any Sith I've ever met. You must be an oddity. How odd. You must be you must be amazing." My story? All right. Born to a Sith Lord mother, raised by her, trained by her, became an oddity in the Force. Her mother was killed by a Jedi Master, drifted for years doing mercenary work and self-teaching with Sith holocrons, met a scavenger, became her friend, fell in love with her, stopped a 1,000-mile-wide death beam from destroying the Republic. It was cool, you should have seen it. Now I'm here guarding my scavenger friend while she tries to become a Jedi. That's my story, Mr. Skywalker. You see, you you see, Mr. Skywalker, I'm the greatest. I stopped a 1,000-mile-wide death beam. I taught myself how to do everything with the Force using just holocrons. And it's because my mother died. Hayden, you should feel bad because you were a member of that order. Luke blinked, surprised by how dense and concise that story was. Whether that story was genuine or not still eluded him. God. Pick a perspective. Are we listening? Are we in Aliana's head? Or are we in Luke's head? Whether all right, let's say for the sake of argument, I believe all of that. Why is it that try to rise to power never occurs at any point in this story? What kind of Sith would oppose the kind of conquest the First Order sets out to commit rather than join it? Why help the woman you love join the order of your enemy? How do you identify as Sith when every action you commit runs counterintuitive to that philosophy?
Excellent question.
Oh,
Excellent question.
I'm sure Lily knew what people would say, what people that aren't her sycophants would say about
I mean, yeah, Lily did make a video about it.
would say about her Mary Sue. So she's now about to try and justify within the codified code of the sixth how and why she is against the first order and she's helping all the people. Why she is a good person despite being uh able to use dark side, despite being a follower of the dark side and claiming to be a Sith. Well, let's take that one at a time, Master Skywalker. What power is there to rise to? With you being here, a washed out hermit, Rey being untrained, your sister having no use for the Force, Urs and Kylo Ren being a pathetic loser that he is, I'm the most powerful Force user in the galaxy. See, I'm the best. I'm amazing. I'm amazing. I'm gonna steal that Despero clip. He's
Go
like,
for it.
yeah, he's got a in one of his Willow reviews. He's like, You're the first. You were the first ever, the bestest ever empowerment." I'm gonna steal that clip. We're gonna use it in this fic. Not as impressive as a title as it. Not as impressive a title as it would have been 50 years ago. But what can I do? But why rise to power when I've already risen as high as I can go? She looked down at the fire and threw a few branches onto it, her crimson's eyes shimmering in the firelight. Why didn't I join the First Order? Okay, no. Okay, so what? You haven't. You're basically You're basically homeless. Like the Fury is your home, so you are effectively just a drifter.
Oh god, I'm just reading on ahead. I forgot the First Order is homophobic.
Oh yeah, yeah, it is. Hold on. So we'll get to that, but I'm dealing with the first response. So she didn't actually answer his question. Hmm. She didn't actually answer his question in that, and returning his question as to what power is there to rise to. There's literally a republic full of systems and people you could exploit to grant yourself wealth and power. Like ruling the galaxy. You know, that thing that Sith have always and forever wanted to do and have succeeded on multiple occasions in doing. But nah, I've already I'm the greatest, most powerful force user in the galaxy. I've already risen as high as I can go. Oh, with my homelessness. Why didn't I join the First Order? That one's a lot more simple. Aelion shrugged. I'm gay, and the First Order kills anyone they find who is. Also, being led by a Jedi who can't fight with a lightsaber to save his life doesn't help matters.
Kylo
Yeah, so
renounced the Jedi Order, though.
like Kookaburra, you you sir, you sir are correct.
Uh,
You can just lie.
Also, why would the First? I mean, you're the most. I mean, she is the most powerful character in this piece of literature. So, I don't think the First Order, if even the First Order knew she was gay, they're not gonna fuck around with her.
Hell no. Like literally, if Kylo Ren is such a wimp that you don't want to follow him, why the fuck wouldn't you plot to overthrow him?
Yeah, like Yeah, she could just kill Kylo and Snoke, take over, and just say, "Okay, we're going to legalize gay marriage." And then if any First Order official says otherwise, she just electrocutes him.
Yeah, exactly. Like what? So this so first of all, she can lie, number 1. So there's an answer to that. She can lie. Number 2, even if she did, she is the most powerful force user in the galaxy. So she wouldn't ever be led by this man. If she was a true Sith, Kylo Ren would be dead. She would have struck. She would have cooed him out of power as soon as she could. Would taken over the Force, taken over, and been like, we don't kill gay people anymore. Number 1, number 2, follow me or die. But also, Hunter X brought up a good point. If the First Order was inclusive, she would join. Like, yeah. See, wait. Oh, wait. Huh? I mean, I can beat the guy that they're calling the biggest, that is like their biggest gun. So why am I not running them? Cuz well, I'm the most powerful force user in the galaxy. So I've risen as high as I can go. Oh, and the only reason I'm not joining this for this First Order business is because they don't like gays. They don't like the gays. Like this this dialogue, this dialogue tears so many holes into her own story. It's glorious. This is glorious. I am watching an author cannibalize their own work. She glanced back up at Luke, watching as he seemed to be trying his hardest to maintain a Pazak face. Oh God, please. Lily, stay off Wikipedia. For Christ's sake.
No kidding, it's a dead website at this point.
I'm helping Rey become a Jedi because it's what she wanted. If she wanted to be a Sith, I would train her that way. But she chose to be a Jedi. The decision isn't up to me, and it's because I love her that I'm helping her get there. And how can I call myself a Sith? Because nothing I do runs contrary to the Sith code. As much as I do of what I and much of what I do is very unbecoming of a Jedi. I know it might seem like I'm calm and reasonable now, but if you were in battle with me, you'd see how much of a ruthless scudda I can become. What? So we're just gonna discount the fact that the Jedi that Obi-Wan Kenobi was called the Negotiator by the Separatists, and usually when his name and this was a name in mockery because he would appear into like he would appear before people before his enemies and be like, look, we're gonna talk this out. Like we can talk this out. You and me, we can negotiate it and you can surrender or we will surrender and you know, oh and we'll do all this. Meanwhile, he's got 5 guys planting bombs at the base of your tower. He's got guys planting bombs at the base of your tower and you don't even know. Like we saw how Obi-Wan conducted battle in like the first episode of the Clone Wars miniseries that aired in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like the animated one,
They were
where
both
he's got,
animated.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, the Tartakovsky one.
Yes. The one where it's like where he sends a team of ARC troopers into the city to plant bombs on a gun that's decimating his troops. And he's like, yeah. And we'll send a cavalry unit, literally speeder bike cavalry, to cause like forces to be directed away from you. Okay. Yeah, contrary to the Sith code, my ass, as you are an embodiment of not the Sith code. Because you would view the connection you have with Rey as a source of weakness, as something that would bind you down, as something that could potentially stunt your growth in power. Because if you care for someone, someone else can exploit them to get at you, to control you. It's why I still believe like there should be a line at the end of The Force Unleashed 2 where the Starkiller clone basically turns to Vader and is like, at the end, Vader's like, as long as she lives, I will control you. And like it would be such a poignant moment for Starkiller to basically turn to him and say, I can live with that. It's sort of that acceptance of a connection, of a bond to someone else. Also, the understanding of what that means. It would have been so good. It didn't happen. Yeah. But also, if if the situation calls for it, I can be ruthless. It's like, yeah. So, like, if you're fighting for your life, so can everybody else. Like that's called fighting for survival, sweetie. It doesn't mean you're a bad person when you like that doesn't make you a Sith. Luke kept his gaze fixed on her for a long silent moment. The only sound was the crackling of the fire and the shoreline winds. All right then. I suppose my last question is, what do you hope to gain from this? When Rey becomes a Jedi and single-handedly defeats the First Order, because that's all it takes apparently, what then? A Sith cannot possibly be satisfied in a galaxy of stagnation that you could just described. So what do you intend to do when this entire fiasco is over? I don't know. Settle down, get married, have kids, and an act dog. Okay, isn't that the dream? Aliana smirked. Said smirk quickly fell from her face as she looked down into the fire. I don't know what I'm going to do, but there'll always be another war to fight. Some other rogue Jedi with delusions of grandeur, another Revan, another Vader, another Kylo Ren. It never stops. I'm not so naive to think that this will be the war to end all wars. Please leave Revan's name out of this. His good name does not deserve to be dragged along with this, and the fact that he is no longer canon is probably a godsend to us all. Because let's be real, Disney would not have done good things to Revan. Also, Vader was absolutely a Sith. Let's not beat around the bush about it. Dude killed small children. Small children. Murdered. Like, small children, dead. Sith. Unless Aliana is somehow going to argue that the death of the small children was in keeping with the Jedi Code. Luke took a moment to consider his next words. Revan, huh? You really have done your research, he said, his tone almost impressed. That's what pride in where you came from where you came from does. I'm a Sith. My whole family was Sith. I don't want to be anything else. I couldn't even if I did want to. A whole family of Sith? How far back does that go? 3,000 years to the days of the resurgent Sith Empire. There isn't much of a legacy for the most part. Heard it's just individual Sith doing what they can to get by in the galaxy. We're not particularly strong in the Force, not like Anakin Skywalker or Rey is now.
You fucking stopped a death beam by yourself.
Hold on, Luke's about to counter with that. Luke arched a brow at Aliana. You just claimed to have stopped a 1,000-mile-wide death beam from destroying the Republic, and you don't consider yourself particularly strong. I haven't even known Darth Sidious to demonstrate that kind of power. Darth Sidious, with the proper prep, could destroy a planet. Darth Sidious, with proper prep, could destroy a planet. Dude was that strong. Number one. Number two. Ooh. Which begs the question of if her family can produce Jedi, or I say Jedi, can produce Force wielders on her level, where they can stop the 1,000-mile-wide death beam. How did no one find them before? So many plot holes. I haven't. Aliana was quiet for a moment, then sat up straight. I'm not like most Force users. Most of them, you, Kylo, Rey, they're equally attuned to the light and the dark side. I'm not. I'm attuned to the dark side only. So when I use the light, it's extremely weak and takes a great deal of energy out of me. But when I use the dark side, it's a lot more powerful than a typical Sith would demonstrate.
And somehow this hasn't driven her insane.
I don't. What?
I mean,
What have you done, Magnus?
The fuck? Okay. So Mary Sue, who I'm sure, who I am 100% sure Lily doesn't believe is a Mary Sue, who is so is purely attuned only to the dark side of the Force. I can't use the light, but he will use the dark for justice.
who's Justice? Who's Justice?
I don't know. Like, she eyed Luke carefully, trying to read him. When her attempts to probe his feelings came back with nothing, she conceded that she conceded that he was simply more skilled than she was. The dark side draws its power from many different things. Anger, hate, fear, but none of them are more powerful than passion. Passion is the dark side in its purest form. Channeling that can perform amazing feats of control. The greater your passions, the greater the power you can draw upon. And doing that on Starkiller base did still almost killed me regardless. No, it didn't. You had some minor burns. Like you suffered exhaustion and had minor burns. Please do not pretend that you were hard pressed to do that.
Okay, so I'm currently looking at the definition for the word passion. It's a strong and barely controllable emotion. So yeah, that kind of ties into the hatred and the hatred and the anger that the Sith typically feel.
I love that she's just described. Even it, she's basically said now that the dark side is not that the dark side isn't evil. She's basically like twisted it to be like the red mana from MTG. Like passion and empathy is Red's like core aspect. So she's like, well, passion drives the dark side, so it must be so I can fuel it with positive emotions just as much as negative. Luke began putting the pieces together in his mind. in his mind before sighing. A Sith Lord saving the Republic from a planet killer with the power of love. All right, I believe you. No one could be so insane as to make that up. I mean, if only we could break the fourth wall and give Luke a taste. Yeah, no kidding. A Sith Lord say, if I wasn't there, I wouldn't have believed it. I needed to sleep for 18 hours to recover from that. Yeah, you just needed to sleep. You were physically exhausted. That doesn't mean it almost killed you. Almost killing you would be you like losing an arm or like having your hands having severe burns cover most of your body and face. Don't ask me to do it again anytime soon. Trust me, I won't, Luke said, waving the notion off. All right, so you're on this planet and will remain here until Rey is complete with her training. I can live with that. So long as you do nothing to interfere with her training or disrupt the lives of the locals, then you'll be fine. Because the dark side is cooler. Hunter. Remember, being the villain is cool. Well, being evil, being morally being not unbound by any moral virtue. Ooh, total freedom is cool. All I'm teaching her is lightsaber combat. Anything else I teach her is at her own request. But I will always stress to her the importance of not being afraid of the dark side. Well, I suppose that will only help training along, he admitted. His attention was then directed by a soft squeak that he heard behind a rock Eliana was sitting on. Speaking of locals, looks like you have a guest. Eliana glanced behind her, looking surprised at the tiny creature that was hiding behind her. Well, hey there, she said softly, picking up the tiny creature and holding it in her hands. What are you doing sneaking about, sweetie? She cooed as she stroked its head. Both.
I mean, Lily Orchard does have a video about it on her channel explaining how she thinks the dark side should work.
Yeah,
We did a response to it last year.
we did, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So you said she had another video out about this. What is it? Is it about this fix specifically?
Wait, what?
Is like she had another video? You mentioned like she has a video out about this.
No, that was the video we responded to.
Okay, yeah. Must have been drawn by the warmth of the fire. If it's out and about at this time of night, it must not have a nest to come back to. Poor little guy, Eliana cooed, completely forgetting about Luke as she watched the bird. It looked like a bird, at least, as she watched the bird curl up in the crook of her arm, chirp softly. What is it? It's called a porg. Luke answers plainly, genuinely surprised about how taken with the critter Eliana appeared to be. Do you not have a nest to keep warm in? She said softly as she stroked Porg's head.
These porgs are so cute. If these were toys, I would buy every single one of them.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just turns around, looks at the camera.
Do you want to come on my ship? I'm picking up all kinds of cuties. Might as well add you to it.
So that's why so that's why they call it that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's appropriate. Hold on. Okay. Luke made a grunting noise as he stood up from the ground, dusting off his robes. They eat fish, mostly, but any meat will do in a pinch. With, with he began walking away from the fire and back towards the small village without so much as a goodbye. I agree, Kookaburra. In fact, there was a time when the dark side was complex and interesting, but that time has passed. Now it is the Disney Force, which means it can't kill anyone and is also somehow, more boring.
Oh, did you hear that? Apparently, in the new Star Wars Acolyte series, they're going to have Philosophy Tube star as one of the characters.
I'm sorry, what?
Yep.
We've done a response to Philosophy Tube, yes?
I don't think so.
Hmm. Is he the guy that always looks like he's on some sort of substance in the newsroom kind of thing?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Or he or she or whatever, sort of like a kind of like a, I guess you could say, diet ContraPoints.
Oh.
Yeah, he's Philosophy Tube's is a tranny now, but as far as I know, he doesn't actually have gender dysphoria.
Hmm.
So he's just probably just riding the bandwagon.
I almost turned on YouTube. I had not heard that, and that's awful sounding. You know who we didn't ever go back to and finish with? Because I don't know that she uploaded the second half of the video, or the second part of the video. Oh, the Maggie May fish.
Oh yeah, the Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Maggie did upload the second part.
Oh, we will have to w- get in on that and make her pay. Metaphorically speaking, not literally. Oh, Aliana paid Luke the same courtesy and didn't acknowledge him leaving. Quite frankly, she was relieved he was. She focused her attention on the pork snuggling into her arm and continued cooing softly to it sitting with her back against the rock so she could soak in the warmth of the fire. You are just a snuggly little thing, aren't you? Ooh, I've got to stop talking like this before going back inside. Yes, I do. Ooh, oh, God, she was talking a baby talk. God. After a moment longer, Ray walked up to the fire, being bathed in its warmth. Oh, thank the force you made a fire. He, she paused, noticing the small creature in Aliana's arms. The sight was admittedly adorable, bringing a smile to Ray's face. Oh, I see you made a new friend. Mm-hmm. He just crawled up to me while I was talking philosophy with the Jedi. Honestly, the poor Urga's much nicer experience. No, you didn't talk philosophy. He asked you questions and you answered none of them and acted like you had won some sort of philosophical battle. Which really, he was just asking about your motivations, why the fuck you're here. Oh yeah, I meant to ask you. Ooh, she said, looking back to where she saw Luke walking. I noticed Master Skywalker walking down when I arrived. Is everything okay? Yeah, he just wanted to grill me on why a Sith was here decidedly not eating puppies for breakfast. Same stuff with Leia, different miserable old Jedi.
Who the fuck talks like this in the Star Wars universe?
No one. But remember, she's from the city, so she doesn't understand how people actually in. He's a liberal living in a most likely a metropolitan area, and doesn't exist outside of a 15-minute drive. So her entire world is a bubble. She doesn't understand that people don't talk like that in Star Wars. Because why would they talk like that? Ah, I see, Ray said, notably relieved that things didn't go too disastrously. With that taken care of, she took a seat by the fire across from Eliana. She was unable to take her eyes off how adorable Eliana was being with the Porg. I think there's a place for him on the ship. I think there's a place for him on the ship? Ray asked, half kidding. I'm sure I can find one, Eliana smiled, taking a piece of dried veg meat and holding it over the Porg's mouth to see if it would take it. He's small, he'll fit right at home. I just told him I was picking up all sorts of cuties in my travels. Ray felt a deep blush spread over her face, which she used the dark cloak that Eliana gave her to conceal it. Oh, for God's sake, you're insufferable. I would play the vomiting again, but we're almost done, and if I keep harping on it, we will never finish. Eliana looked up at her and smiled brightly. Hey, unlike one of us, I wasn't sniffing your clothes earlier. Ray lifted her head and pointed a finger at Eliana. I did not sniff your row, she said indignantly. You can't.
Baka.
You're make so. All right, Lily, you're gonna make me bring out Vomit Boy again. Do you want me to bring out Vomit Boy again? You know, Tyrant, I'm actually curious what Porg meat would taste like. They subsist mostly on fish, though, so I've got to wonder if it's like potentially not like very fishy or very thin meat.
I imagine it'd be very tender.
Uh, the Porg made a noise that Ray could only assume was to her detriment, considering how close she was nuzzled into Eliana's hold. Oh, don't take her aside, she said sternly. Ray, I saw you from the cockpit window. You buried your face in my cloak and breathed deeply. It was cold out here. I was just warming up my face. I was not sniffing anything. Ray, I'm honest with you as much as I can be. Can you be honest with me about something? Ray huffed. Only if it's not about sniffing your cloak. No. 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 I could not hold it back anymore. It's so bad. It's
Yeah.
so cringe. It's so wrong.
I'm just now imagining Ray as just an anime girl with her poofing her cheeks up.
Yeah, like literally that's what's happening here. And it's not better in anime. It's actually more cringe. Like this is slightly above anime cringe. Which I don't know if you've ever seen anime cringe, but anime cringe is bad.
What type of anime cringe specifically?
Um badly bad moai series and bad ecchi series have awful, awful, awful dialogue and scenes and cringe. It reminds me of those. All right. Bray bit her lip as though she was about as though as she thought about answering the question honestly. With how cold she had been for the past few hours and how flustered she was at the moment, she concluded that no lie she told would have been believable. Yes, I do find you attractive. Eliana's smile twitched a little wider and her cheeks flushed. Well, that explains why you've been acting so weird. I hope you know that I don't expect anything of you. I'm not doing all this for you in hopes that you'll start to feel the same way about me I that I do about you. Ray went to speak, but the words died in her throat. She honestly didn't know what that was. No, that was the case. What is Ray? Is Ray stupid?
Yeah, she's emotionally unhinged.
I mean, obviously, but like, is Ray stupid? Is Ray being intentionally written as stupid for this scene, or at least this chapter, so we can have this really cringy dialogue set up for the relationship? Like, what? Like, why? He, why are you like this? What is going on? Why would like, Ray, at no point has she given any indication she wants a relationship with you. She has told you she loves you. That's it. And as far as Ray is concerned, that could mean any kind of love. Of like, I love you as, a student. I love you as a very dear friend. And I love you as one of my family kind of thing. It doesn't necessarily indicate romantic love. So why and what point did Ray come to the conclusion that, oh, Aliana must want a relationship with me? Like, what is going on? Why is this suddenly your conclusion? Oh, what time is it? Okay. We've got quite a bit left, so we need to get through it fairly quickly. I appreciate that, she said, a fond smile starting to form on her face. I appreciate a lot of what you've done for me, Eliana. You're a good friend. She spoke truthfully, but still couldn't bring herself to look Eliana in the face as she spoke. It felt as though her feelings, as confusing as they were, threatened to burst out of her chest if she did. Eliana, for her part, had successfully managed to hide the joy she felt when she heard Ray still consider her a friend, and reached over to lay a hand on her shoulder. Is that girl? Damn it!
What happened?
Oh, that's not pizza sauce. Okay. So I looked at my wrist, saw like little black uh crumb on it, and thought I had gotten pizza sauce on my wrist somehow. And it had just dried. But no, it's from a cut that Rhodey probably gave me while he was biting me or clawing me. You know, cat things. Uh, well, with Finn out of commission, you deserve a good friend in this cold, miserable place. I just hope you don't get the wrong idea about. Not at all. Well, lots of women find me attractive. It's not and the earth. It's not the earth-shattering revelation you might think it is. Don't worry, I know where we stand. I'm so hot. Lots of women find me attractive. Even though even though I'm a man. Isn't that right, Lily? Side eye. Side eye. Ray breathed a heavy sigh of relief. Thank you. I'm starting to feel a little foolish for not coming forth about this sooner. The porg squeaked inquisitively. You don't need to worry about that, she said to the critter. It's all right. I probably would have come forward about how I felt. I probably wouldn't have come forward, but about how I felt either if you hadn't held me at the metaphorical gunpoint. Oh, fuck, that's right. Ray, under pursuit. Ray, the psychopath that she is. Like, eh, can can we talk about how Ray's behavior in this entire fan fiction is based on two modes? She is either a massive tsundere bitch, or she is like No, she's just a tsundere. Like she, he, she has random emotional outbursts over the smallest shit. She can't confess her feelings and doesn't know if the other person believes or not. Like, that's the. But here's the problem: she's not a well-written tsundere. I don't know that there is one, but she's so dumb.
And not to mention she almost got everybody killed just because Amorosa lied to her.
Oh
And
yeah,
they had to have their talk while being pursued. It couldn't wait. No, we have to have the talk right now.
a fucking psychopath.
Yeah. Our relationship is more important than our lives. Well, not just our lives, but the lives of everybody else who is also on the ship.
And dying. Finn wasn't in critical condition or anything.
So that's some quality character writing, Lily. Definitely not a deep dive into your own psyche.
All right, you don't need to worry about that. Ray felt her flushed face grow ever red, this time in embarrassment. Her mind went back to the day she held Aliana, Finn, Chewie, and herself hostage, only for the truth she was demanding from her to be that she was in love with her. That wasn't my smartest decision, I'll admit. No, that was a psychopathic decision.
Yeah, you're right. That was not your smartest decision, to say the least.
Aliana shrugged. In truth, having to confess under duress like that had been painful, but under the circumstances, she tried not to hold it against her. However, the sting she felt whenever she was reminded that Ray knew how she knew continued to nag at her. I don't understand this sentence. Maybe they talk about it sometime, but not for a while. There would be time for her baggage later. Not much we can do about it now, she said simply as she threw another branch onto the fire. How big is this fire? Like, so you lit it on fire, but you've thrown branches in every 2 minutes. How small and how weak is this fire? Like, it's either so big it's consuming the branches really quickly, or you're throwing too much fuel on it. So you're smothering the fire. Stop hitting the mouse with your tail.
The
We can
kitty
try and do
returns.
better. Huh?
I said the kitty returns.
Yeah. We can try and do better, Ray offered. Stop that. Stop hitting the mouse with your tail.
Well, it's a mouse. He has to attack it.
Do not reveal my start menu shortcuts. I appreciate that, Aliana smiled. All right, last section. Ray sat by the fire wrapped up in Aliana's cloak, feeling generally good about herself. She cleared the air that desperately needed clearing and felt like a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Aliana had gone inside to find somewhere for the poor to sleep. So she was alone. By a comforting fire wrapped up in a warm cloak that smelled of her best friend. In fact, she was considerably less embarrassed about admitting now. She sighed and sunk down into the soil, leaning her back against the rock and basking in the warmth of the fire. Nothing could possibly ruin this moment. Why do I keep seeing you? Criff. Ray's look of serene calmness turned into vitriol contempt. Okay, vitriolic contempt is a word. Vitriol and contempt are words. But vitriol contempt is not a word. Is not a thought. As she glared at Kylo Ren, who was now sat across from her. Go to hell, you're not real. Well, Kylo looked around the campsite he found himself in. Can you see my surroundings? I can't see yours. I don't care what you can see. Sooner or later, I'm going to find a way to get you out of my head. Uh, Kylo tilted his head in curiosity. Does your master not know about this? She's not my master. Her, she bellowed at him, standing up to talk down at him. Why haven't you told her? He asked curiously, rising from his seat to meet her gaze. You're keeping this from her for a reason. What could that be? Don't pretend to know me, you pathetic wretch. I know but you better than you think. I may know you better than you know yourself. You don't know anything. You're just a murderous grease stain. Is that what the Sith Lord told you? Or Skywalker? It's what I saw with my own two eyes. Can you even trust that? You don't know if I'm really here or not. You could just be going insane. Don't play games with me. You're a spoiled, helpless worm of a person. I broke you before, I'll do it again. Then get rid of me right now. Oh, Kylo taunted. Prove your superiority. Rey had been trying to do that, but she had no idea how or why she was seeing him in the first place. She didn't even know where to start. She knew it was because she was still mostly untrained and there were things about the Force she couldn't yet comprehend. But being in this position again, unable to resist as this parasite invaded her mind whenever he wished, she hung her head and growled in frustration. Now that's more like now that's more like the girl I saw, helpless and whimpering as I combed through her mind like it was an open book. I don't think that's what happened. I don't remember if that's true, but I don't think that's what happened. Like, she beat him. What could you possibly have? What hope could you possibly have if you can't keep your own mind closed? If I'm so easy to read, why didn't that save you on Ilum? Maybe this is my punishment for not killing you when I had the chance. Or maybe this is the sign that your only hope is to master the Force through me. Kylo said, stepping closer to her. Don't come near me. The Sith doesn't really care about you. She only wants you for her twisted fantasies. He's. I said get back. Rey, Rey, her hand up to swat the dark Jedi away. While her hand made no contact, the fire before her suddenly roared with new life, shooting meters high into the air. The suddenness of the act caused Rey to shoot back and fall against the rock. The main hatch of the Fury opened, and Aliana came running out and down the ramp. Rey, are you all right? She'll use you, Kylo hissed directly in her ear. It's in her nature. Shut up, Rey said, convulsing with disgust at Kylo's proximity.
It's in her nature. You mean as a Sith? No, as a homosexual.
You're not real. Aliana came round the rock and knelt down in front of her. Rey, what's the matter? She stopped when she touched Rey's hand. She could feel something, a presence in the Force. Closing her eyes, she focused and covered both of them in the same veil of dark side energies that she'd used to sneak into Starkiller Base. She felt the presence vanish now that it could no longer connect with either of them. Rey looked to her side to see Kylo Ren blink out of existence, and she felt the eerie chill of the dark side swarm around her. She looked down at Aliana, who had opened her eyes and was looking at her with concern, still holding her hand. Better? She asked softly. Yes. Thank you. I don't know what that was. Same thing as earlier today? It must be. He She said something inside of her still didn't want to admit to Aliana she kept seeing Kylo Ren. And she didn't want her worrying more about her than she already was. She wanted to prove that she could deal with this, if to no one else but herself. So we're going with the Kylo Ren did that to Rey, I guess. And so this is probably the most her trauma will ever affect her in any real meaningful sense. She could hardly put a coherent thought together before she noticed her own tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. It wasn't necessarily a lie. She knew Kylo Ren was in her head. She just didn't know how or why or what to do. Well, I won't make you talk about it. Okay, but you can tell something that's going on in her head. You could be like, look, in order to protect us, I felt someone else in your head. And whatever you're experiencing is from the outside, not the inside.
Okay,
Like,
so if we're trying to say that using the Force to read people's mind is an allegory for the thing,
yes,
would that mean that Palpatine is just straight up grooming Kylo?
yes,
I've been every voice inside your head.
yes. And Aliana, you know, you just had a moment where you were like, oh, there's a force, there's something that is connecting her with someone else through the force. Or let me just shield us. Let me lower a veil over us so we are protected and cannot be detected through the force. Or then proceeds to tell Rey, proceeds to tell Rey, instead of being like, no, that wasn't that was real. No, that was real. That was the real Kylo. He is somehow connecting you to your mind through the Force. Let me help you shield your mind. Tell Master Luke in the morning. He can. I'll tell Master Luke. You need to begin with telepathic shielding. Like, boom, boom, done. But instead, we have Aliana being like, you don't have to talk about it unless you want to. Well, I won't make you talk about it, Aliana said, taking a rare initiative and pulling Rey closer. She wrapped her arms around her protectively. She wanted to say something else to her, to comfort her and make her open up, but instead she just held her. She hoped that this would be enough to make her feel more at ease. Okay, but you're not going to explain to her, like, I sensed a presence outside of you from the Force, within the Force, or that was connecting you, that connected you somewhere? Or, like, it doesn't matter what you were seeing, whatever it was real enough, but it was sent from outside of you. And we can teach, and I can teach you, both Luke and I can teach you how to read, how to block that out. Oh. Rey clung tightly to Aliana as she could, as if the wind would sweep her away if she didn't. She lost the will to hold back and choked on the choked sob in her throat. Everything she felt in that cell on Starkhill Base just came rushing back to her in the worst possible way. She couldn't handle it. She could barely speak or think, and she just cried. Aliana felt something in her chest break as she stroked Rey's hair, her and cradled her as she completely broke down in her arms. She wanted so desperately to help the poor girl, but that Rey wouldn't tell her anything. But that Rey wouldn't tell her anything left her little to do other than offer whatever comfort she could think of. Okay, you already know whatever was happening was an influence from outside of Rey. It is not Rey's force powers turning on her. It is not a hallucination. It is not anything like that. It is someone attempting to manipulate her from outside of herself. Telling her that and being like, we can give you the tools to prevent this to identify and prevent this influence. Boom, done, solution. But no, Rey needs to cry. We need to cry and hug. Cry and hug. Like, that's how we solve this problem. Really? Oh, right. I don't have my camera on. No one can see me staring blind, like glaring at my cat for doing that. Eliana felt something in her chest break as she stroked Ray's hair, cradling her. But that Ray wouldn't tell her anything. Okay. Whatever it was, she knew it had to be connected with what happened on Starkiller Base. Whatever had been, whatever that had been, she knew the grease stain of a Jedi was involved somehow. What did you do to this girl? She whispered audibly, not realizing that she had done so right next to Ray's ear. She's done nothing wrong. Ray pulled away to look at Eliana, confusion etched on her tear-streaked face. What? Oh, I didn't realize you could hear. I was just wondering what that grease stain did to you to put you in this kind of state. I don't know why anyone would want to hurt you this badly. Ray felt her breath catch in her throat. Eliana knew. Of course she knew. She wasn't an idiot. A part of her was panicking, not wanting to admit she was right. Another much louder part of herself, however, was taken aback by just how kind and warm Eliana's words to her were. I don't know what's going on, why he's doing this, or if it's even him, Ray admitted meekly between sniffles. But I'll take care of it. I think once I start my training I can make him go away. Go away? Is he Do you want me to let go? Eliana stopped herself inside. She couldn't push Ray to tell her. If she was going to be adamant about it, she had to wait for her to come for help if she needed it. Do you want me to let go? Okay, no. Oh, you probe deeper, especially when that happens. Like, no, you ask the question because it will solve the problem. Like, she can be like, okay, in the morning, tell Master Skywalker you need to work on your telepathic barriers. No, she said rather pitifully clinging to Ileana even harder than before. The fire had begun to die and fade into embers in light of its explosive outburst. Ileana was the softest and warmest thing Ray could find at the moment. Ileana wanted to smile and feel flattered that Ray was clinging to her, but the way she seemed so desperately so desperately bury her face into her shoulder, she couldn't bring her any kind of positive feeling. It just made her more worried. She simply held her silently and tucked her head under her chin. If this was what her friend needed from her, then she'd be more than happy to provide it. Aliana rubbed her eyes as she sat down on the couch. She had to carry Ray back inside and bring her to her quarters. Whatever she'd seen, it had freaked her out pretty badly. She only hoped she would open up about it sooner rather than later. As she went over the datapad containing communications from the Resistance, she quietly wondered about the presence she felt. She hadn't so much as heard a whisper until she touched Ray's hand. And then it was like a bright explosion in the Force. Her mind wandered to many historical records she perused over the years, and one hypothesis came to her. Hey, 2V? Yes, Ali. 2V replied, stepping out from the cargo hold. Is Miss Ray all right? Does she need another blanket? She's asleep, but she's not all right. Could you do me a favor? Compile all the information in the Fury's databanks related to Force bonds and put it onto a datapad for me. I've got a new mystery to solve. At once, Ali, 2V said dutifully before making his way to the records room. Sorting through data is one of my favorite pastimes. Thanks, 2V. Love you, Aliana said as she continued looking through the Resistance's report. It was the only lead she had to go on, but it might just prove to be fruitful. If her suspicions were correct, the Force had decided to form a bond between Rey and Kylo Ren. There left only one question. How could she sever it? Okay. Okay. We're done here. I have... Huh?
Nothing. Go
Yeah.
on.
I have nothing more to say. That was just all of that last bit felt in very poor taste. I'll say that.
So, did Luke Skywalker's lightsaber also violate Rey?
Good question. Is there a force bond between her and and Luke Skywalker's lightsaber? These are the questions.
Well, that was it. That was terrible,
It
but I
was.
had fun.
Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. If you made it this far, please leave a like down below. Oh, it just helps the channel grow. Same, if you are not already, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell, well, which is apparently a thing people do who aren't on YouTube all the time. I don't know. We're all mad down here, Rabbit. We are all mad. And I will be back Monday with Pokemon Black 2, a Nuzlocke, around 2 p.m. And all those VODs are actually still on the channel, well, under a playlist. We've made it to attempt 26
Oh, fun.
weeks so far, so having a lot of fun. And then on Thursday, Friday, on Thursday and Friday, there will be a Metro playthrough uploaded to the channel because I will be heading out of town. So look forward to that. Anyway, y'all have a wonderful day.